Hello, everyone, and welcome to the podcast. This is Studio 41 Podcast. I'm your host, O'Neill, and my guest today is Francis, or Roxanne Francis. I can say Miss Francis. So, Roxanne, how are you doing?
I am doing well. Thank you so much.
Good. Glad to have you on the show today.
Yes.
I mean, we've had you on before,
Yes.
and you're such a great guest that I had to call you back on because there's so much that you have to offer.
Well, thank you. Always happy to be here.
Good. So today we wanted to talk about, and it's pretty relevant with what's going on in society right now, is about collective or group trauma. With the different things going on in the world, whether it be famine, whether it be wars, whether it be, the pandemic, we're looking. What I'm interested in hearing is a lot of people are asking about: is there such a thing as a collective
trauma?
And what does that look like?
Yeah.
And are you seeing individuals coming in with everything that's going on talking about this?
Yeah. Collective trauma is this idea of a group of people going through the same kind of trauma. And one of the biggest examples of collective trauma is when people came back from fighting World War II, right? A lot of people were, as they call it, shell shocked or had to deal with post-traumatic stress disorder or PTSD. The difference between then and now is that then most of the men coming back from the war had gone through more or less the same thing. Fighting in the battlefield, maybe getting wounded, seeing lots of mortality and having to come back and re-enter regular life. Now, most of us who are civilians are experiencing this or witnessing digitally what wars look like overseas. But the challenge is a lot of us are not talking about how it's impacting us, or we don't even know how it's impacting us. So even though it's collective, it's individualized in a way, right? When it's collective, everyone knows that we've gone through the thing and we're trying to access healing. But as it is today, we are experiencing what's going on overseas almost as though it's normal. And nothing about this is normal, right? But it's become the backdrop of our lives while we grocery shop, while we pick up the kids from school, while we go to work, while we, pump gas, while we live regular life. And it's not a normal occurrence at all.
Well, it's interesting because a lot of people think, well, there's some things that may not be directly related to you or you think don't have an impact on you. It's happening across the world. It's with something that you have no connection to, so to speak, other than a world community.
Yep.
But so a lot of people are like, why would that have an impact on me? And I don't see the impact.
Yeah.
And so how would people recognize that it is impacting you? Like, how would you know that something happening in Botswana, for example, that have something to do with different tribes? How do they know that they're being impacted by it, by them just even watching it or listening to it?
Yeah. You just hit the nail on the head with the very last thing you said, watching it or listening to it. If you are not someone who is plugged into what's going on in the world, then it might not be impacting you, right? But we live in a world now in 2026 where we have the news and what's going on in the world in the palm of our hands through our digital devices, more or less 24/7, right? And even if you do not watch the news, if you're on social media, then it's on there. Actually, I don't remember the numbers offhand, but there was a report recently that stated that something like more than 50% of us get initial bits of news from social media. So we open our phones, we go on whatever the social media platform is, and we hear about this thing that's happening, and then we click to a more reliable news source to find out the details. But these things are always before us. And so because it is always in our faces, it becomes this constant feed, and that impacts how you show up. Sometimes our minds are not clear because we're constantly thinking about this thing. Or even if it's not constantly on your mind, the idea that the world is somehow going through this devastating war, that in itself can impact us. The other thing as well that I just thought of is that we live in a world where people travel quite often. We live in a world where there's a lot of immigration. And so there are a lot of people who might live in country B who are from country A, and country A is going through a war right now in the moment. And so there is this thing of the land of my birth is going through this tragedy, or people that I love are still there and I don't know if they're safe, whether it's a political situation or whether it's a geographical situation like tornado, earthquake, or hurricane. These things impact you in a significant way, and we can't just pretend like it's not having an impact.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. And with social media, obviously, the world becomes smaller.
Smaller, definitely,
And so we're aware of everything like as it happens.
as it happens. When I was a little girl growing up in the Caribbean, if I wanted to hear about what was going on in the news, we either had to catch the 7 o'clock news, or if you're up late, you would catch the 11 o'clock news. But now we're as it happens. Before the words breaking news flash across the screen, it's coming up in our phones. It's coming up in your iPad. It's coming up on your laptop, your computer. And we are not, as human beings, we're not physically designed or equipped to handle that influx of mostly bad news 24/7, right? It's like as it happens, it's being shoved in our faces, and we're not meant to absorb all of that stuff from all around the world all the time.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. So what? How do we see that in ourselves? Like what manifests as that type of? I guess when you see these things happening, like what are the external signs? What? How do you present? Is there?
Yeah.
What does it look like for me? Like how do I know that this is having a real impact on me?
Yeah.
I need to do something about it.
So it's kind of hard to say what is impacting you in this way, but I will tell you things to pay attention to. Do you feel this just general sense of melancholy thinking throughout your life, even though things might be going fairly well in your home with your family? But do you feel this sense of what's the point? Do you feel this sense of hopelessness, or it doesn't matter? Or, well, look at the price of gas, look at the cost of food. It doesn't matter how hard I work, right? It doesn't matter how much I love my children. This kind of thing is inevitable, right? Do you find yourself um, disconnecting from your family and friends when nothing else in your life is actually going wrong, right? You want to pay attention to how much of this am I consuming? If you are not paying attention to the news, if you are not on social media, if you are not talking about these things on a regular basis, and you do feel hopeless or melancholy, then you might want to talk with your therapist or your counselor on what else could be going on in your life. But we have to be aware that this backdrop of doom and gloom geopolitically is having an impact on us. And that impact can look like difficulty sleeping, hopelessness, uh, not want difficulty getting excited about the joyful things in life, right? Not wanting to connect. Sometimes people experience depression and they can't pinpoint a source, right? We really have to take a look at then the next question that I would ask if this person were my client is, how do you feel about the events going on in the world? What do you think about the country's political situation? What do you think about the political situation in your region, right? In your end of the world? What does that look like for you? How do you feel about that? And then we will start to unearth, you know, how these things are impacting you on a personal level.
Right. Yeah. Um, something you said there kind of touched home in terms of just the hopelessness
Mhm.
with our young people.
Mhm.
And just, you know, I don't know if they don't care is the right word, but it's more of they're not very positive what the
Yeah.
future is going to be. So for them, something simple like, whether it's, throwing out recycling, like taking
Mhm.
the time to decide what belongs in the recycling bin and the garbage. And, that's simple. Not everybody does that. But for
Mhm.
some who used to do it, now they're like, doesn't
It
matter.
doesn't matter.
You know, not everybody's doing it. The
Mhm.
world is
Who
is in a horrible
cares?
place. Um, and it won't impact me. I
Yeah.
won't probably be around
I
when
won't
it
be here.
does.
So what's
Yeah.
the point? There's a
What's the
sense of
point?
apathy,
Mm-hmm.
right? This sense of, it doesn't matter. What's the point? I don't really care, right? We have to pay attention to that because if we don't tap into that and have discussions around it, and then do some things to manage that, then we can really slip into some darkness, right? And that's what we want to try to avoid.
So like do something about it. So what can we do about it? Like, I mean, it just seems like a very daunting or a very heavy
Mm-hmm.
task to do. Like, what can we actually do? Like, what small things can we do?
Mm-hmm. There is this little anecdote about a little girl who was walking along a beach. Maybe you've heard it. And there were these starfish that were stranded along the beach. And she's walking along the beach and she's picking one up and throwing it in the ocean. And there's like hundreds of starfish for some reason. And a very grumpy old man came up to her and said, "What are you doing?" And she said, "I'm saving the starfish." And he said, "You're only one little girl, and there's hundreds of starfish out here. You can't save all of them." And she picked up one, flung it in the ocean, looked him dead in the face, and said, "Well, I just saved that one." And so sometimes we look at the world and we think to ourselves, there's nothing that I can do alone, that me alone, there's nothing that I alone can do about this massive situation. But if you can find a small thing that you can do, right? Um, you can get involved politically outside of your vote. One, you can vote in the direction of your beliefs. Two, you can reach out to your local politician, whoever that is. You can, volunteer at a soup kitchen. You can donate to the Red Cross. You can participate in a march in the downtown of your local city. You can volunteer in different ways. And those things move us from hopelessness, there's nothing that I can do about this, to having a sense of agency. I can get involved, and my one little needle can help move the bigger needle further down the line.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Okay. So get involved that way.
Get involved. Yeah.
So we're living in a world where there's constant turmoil. So it's like constant trauma. And so that could mean being involved a lot. That becomes part of your life, that you are getting involved, um, just so that you can manage some of the hopelessness. But what's the long term effect with that? Like if the world is constantly, or you're in a situation where you're constantly distressed,
Mm-hmm.
what does that mean for you mentally, maybe long term?
It has a mental effect and it has a physical effect,
Mm-hmm.
right? When you are exposed to um, this kind of news or these kinds of events, um, every day, right? It creates a kind of chronic stress, meaning it never goes away. It's there in the background all the time. It's different from some kind of acute stress. If you get into a car accident and you suddenly have this rush of adrenaline and you get out of your car, you call 911, you call a tow truck, you realize that you're not in harm, you go away, and eventually that sense of doom goes away. When you are in a situation of chronic stress, that sense of doom does not go away. And you find your brain taps into this fight or flight mechanism and it stays there. It shifts into park, right? It doesn't just it doesn't just pull over. Like it shifts into park. And when you are in constant fight or flight, um, you you asked about mentally. So it can create anxiety for you because anxiety in itself, the idea of an anxiety disorder, basically the core of it is an overactive fear response. Anxiety is based in fear, right? And if I have to stand in front of a room and give a talk, so to speak, I might get a little bit nervous. I might have some anxiety, but then I give the talk and then it's over, right? But with this kind of stuff happening in the background of our lives, we get this anxiety because there is this constant doom. There is this dread. Something could happen. And every day we're thinking this thing could happen. And so you develop anxiety. You develop this, what if this thing happens? Right. And it's real. And we saw that a lot in the pandemic, right? We didn't know what was going to happen. Then people started dying. And What if this happens to anxiety was everywhere during the pandemic. And I'm seeing a lot of anxiety in my clients around some of this geopolitical stuff, right? Then there's depression, the idea of hopelessness, right? It's never going away. We're going from one crisis to the next.
Right.
When is this ever going to be over? Well, what's the point? I may as well we'll just stay in bed with the lights off and the curtains drawn, right? And it's exhausting. It's exhausting for your mind to have to push through the sludge of that every single day. And nobody's talking about it. And so if you are feeling this way and no one else is talking about it, you don't realize that everyone else is feeling this way. So you think you are the problem, right? And then it becomes this sense of, why can't I hack it? That person looks like they're functioning, but it only looks that way, right? They're struggling too, right? Many people are out here struggling, but because we're not talking about it, which I'm so glad we're having this conversation, because nobody's talking about it, we feel like we're the only ones, right? And that creates its own issue. Now, that's more of a mental situation, and I will say I'm not a doctor, but from a physiological perspective or a biological perspective, having this constant fight or flight in our bodies creates this overproduction of the stress hormone called cortisol.
I hear a
And
lot about that.
yeah, cortisol shows up when your body's under stress. And it's not a bad thing in and of itself. Our bodies are designed to produce cortisol because we will go through stressful situations, and cortisol is produced so that we can manage to keep ourselves safe, so that we can have a boost of adrenaline, so we can find the energy to run away or fight the thing that is happening to us, right? But when you are in constant stress, and there is an overproduction of cortisol, then what does that do? It does what it's supposed to do. It increases our blood pressure. In a regular situation or in a healthy situation, that blood pressure is increased so that our muscles can do what they're supposed to do to defend us, right? To help us get away from the bad thing. So there's high blood pressure. There is we can have issues with diabetes, insulin resistance. Um, you know, cortisol also increases it changes your appetite, right? We have a craving for sweeter and saltier foods, more carbs. Again, those things are supposed to help our bodies so that we can have the energy that we need to get out of the situation. But if we're in a chronic situation, we can't get out of it. We're creating these sugars and the high blood pressure situation and lack of sleep and foods that in overusage of these foods can create harm for our bodies. And so we find ourselves with difficult chronic illnesses as a result of the overproduction of cortisol in our system, as a result of the doom and gloom backdrop that we're living in every day.
Wow. So I'm always hearing people talk about cortisol right now and, how to manage it. And, I'm just thinking of one way, obviously, might be exercise
Yep.
to manage it. Obviously, maybe seeing someone to have a conversation like yourself,
Yep.
psychotherapist, talk about it. But it is something that we can control or that we can't
You
control.
can reverse.
But we do need it, though.
We
to
need it.
survive
We need it.
Yeah.
It's going to cortisol is going to be created in your life as long as there's some kind of stressful environment, right? So what is important for us, doctors always say, reduce your stress level, right? You want to try to mitigate any kind of chronic stress in your life. Give yourself breaks, all the things that we can do to help us have a healthy mind, right? Like you said, talking to a professional, getting some exercise, eating better foods, all those things that can help your body be more have more optimal production of different hormones.
Do you think that different communities are impacted by different traumas in the world? Like do people manage it differently depending on where they're from, what they're used to or what they see?
Yes.
Do you think that in terms of resiliency, do you think different communities may manage things a little bit
Different
different?
communities definitely manage things differently. And a lot of it is based on the cultural backgrounds, and a lot of it is based on values, right? So, for example, in North America, when we're stressed out, what do? We eat, we get on our phones, we play video games, right? Those are some of the things that we do in North America. Those aren't necessarily healthy things, right? Different cultures, again, depending on value systems, they might pray, right? The women might get together and do some kind of ritual. And so I don't want to put one culture against the other, but there are definitely different ways that we manage the stress. One thing I will say is that in North America, in the I don't like to use the word Western world because that has roots of colonization. However, in North America, right? in the global North, our society has become increasingly individualized. And that means we manage stress on our own. And that isn't the best way to handle life.
Say that again. We manage stress.
We manage stress on our own. Due to this individualistic culture, right? We live in a world where you leave your house, you come home, you close the door, right? Many people don't know their neighbors, right? Your parents die or you get sick, maybe your cousins, your best friend, or whoever might come over, but the geographical community might not know that you're struggling, right? What do we say in our culture? We handle things on our own. We tough it out, right? You don't tell anybody our business. There is this very, very closed individual culture, and it creates loneliness. It creates stress, right? Now in the
And I just want to interject because
yeah,
I think
please.
because I'm talking about myself now
Mhm.
because a lot of those things are true with me. You just don't want people to see you as weak sometimes, or see that you are not capable of managing what's going on.
But
So
we are not supposed to be capable of managing what's going on our own. We need each other. And North America has fed us this lie that we're supposed to manage on our own. And that's why we're not doing well. Right? The key to optimal health is community. Connecting with each other. We are not meant to do life alone. Even if it's just you and your quote unquote nuclear family, that is still insufficient. It's one of the reasons why people did not do well during the pandemic, because we were just our own little 4-person family alone. That's it. You can't go hang out with auntie so and so or the best friend from wherever. You couldn't get together. We couldn't gather. We couldn't celebrate. Those things are important, and I find that in the quote unquote global South, what I like to call the global majority, there is a better handle on community and connection. We grieve together. We celebrate together. The whole community comes together. Your child graduates, the whole community comes out, right? You have a baby, the whole community comes out, right? And what that means is you're never truly alone. Someone in your family has a chronic illness, everybody's taking turns to come to make sure that you're okay. Those kinds of things are important. It means that you're not carrying the burdens alone.
but what troubles me is that we know this. Like we do. Like
Yes, yeah.
so what? Like why don't we do it? And okay, and that's what you're talking about. It's a cultural. That's
Yep.
North American culture. This is what we believe.
Yes.
But
We're
yeah,
moving
it makes
away
sense.
from it. We're
we?
rapidly moving away from it.
Are we seeing signs of that happening? That we are moving away from?
We're moving people are connected to their phones. How many friends do you stay in connect with on your phone that you haven't seen in over a year? Right?
Yep.
Because we're just not as connected as we used to be. I'll tell you a story. I don't know how much time we have, but I'll tell you a story.
Tell me a story.
As you know, I grew up in Jamaica.
Did
and
you?
when I
Okay. No.
when
Go
I was
ahead.
a little girl, you know this. When I was a little girl, we had to live through a bad hurricane. Not as bad as the one that passed last year, but Hurricane Gilbert was the worst hurricane that the country had seen to that point. And many people, the whole island lost power for months, right? We did not have running water for weeks and weeks. School was shut down for months. The whole country had to recover. And I tell you, what I remember from that is I was raised in a single parent household. What I remember from that is my mom and all of our neighbors on our street and streets over. We would gather together at nighttime. We would make these bottle torches. I think the term for it in North America is Molotov cocktail. We'd make these torches, right?
Yes.
And they would just stand in front of someone's home and just tell stories and laugh for hours. And eventually the women would get together and start cooking outside. And we didn't have much. We didn't have any electricity. We didn't have any running water, but what we had was each other. If one person heard that ice was being sold over such and such, then one person who had a car, people would pile it into the car and go get enough ice for all of us to share. It was a true sense of community. In that neighborhood, if one person lost a job, then the mothers would cook and we would bring. And, if one person had to go to school after work, then her kids would go to someone else's home and that parent would feed them. And where does that exist now? That doesn't exist now. Right? And what I can tell you is that I did not, mind you, I was a child, so maybe the devastation was far removed, but I didn't feel the fear and the devastation because I felt the love and the presence and protection of community. I don't see that existing in our culture right now. And that's a problem. It's causing people to think that we need to hide. No one can know what's going on. Don't tell anyone that you lost your job. Don't tell anyone that your child is struggling. Mm-hmm. Don't tell anyone that your child needs help in math. Right? We need to show that we're doing great.
Mm-hmm.
Right?
If not, you're perceived maybe as a failure.
Exactly. Mm-hmm. Exactly. But we're not. The reason we're failing is because we've fallen off from community. And so if we can bring back that sense of community, then that togetherness will start to stave off the challenges of the geopolitical trauma that's going on in our world. Right.
Okay, so what can we do to combat this? Like, are there some tangible things that we can do as a community? Because you spoke a lot about community and how we've moved away from that.
Yeah.
And how, in our society, when we say society, North America, where everything is really, you don't want to share. And it's because of lack of community. And that is preventing us from really managing these things well.
Yes.
Cortisol and so forth.
Yes.
So what, as a community, can we do?
Yes.
Or are there thoughts on other communities that might be doing something that maybe we could learn from?
So I will try to answer that. I think that what we need to do is lean into tradition, lean into community. Many of us hail from different places, spaces, states, provinces, and countries. And we have culture, we have tradition. I think we need to lean into that. I think we need to lean into our places of values, right? We need to lean into joy. And what I mean by all of those phrases is, when you think about the religious community, when you think about whether we worship in a church or a mosque or a temple, there are things that define how people worship. So coming together, in some places they pray for each other. In some places, tears are being shed because of the stresses that people have carried throughout the week. In different places of worship, they might gather for a huge meal afterwards, right? That in itself is therapeutic, right? When you think of huge festivals like carnival festivals, regardless of whether or not you believe in stuff like that, that gathering together, the dancing, the laughter, the throwing of paint, the makeup, the costume, the revelry, if you will, is a huge celebration. And that is a celebration of life and of joy. We need to go after those things. We need to go after tradition, whether it's the big wedding or the long funeral that goes for days, or the traditions that accompany that, gathering together around food, baking together, men getting together and playing dominoes or playing spades in the States, whatever that looks like, having the huge family reunion. Someone's baking the cheesecake, another one's making the potato salad, someone is bringing in the oxtail or the jerk chicken, whatever that looks like. I'm speaking your
You said
language.
something good there. Mhm.
But we need to lean into celebration culture.
Yes.
We need
I like
to,
that celebration culture. Yep.
yes, yes. We need to lean into joy, right? What does it look like when people get married, when a child goes from, high school to university or graduating university? We need to have the celebration, right? Whether it's a transitioning, celebration of life service, or a new life coming into the world. But let's get loud or even soft. Let's celebrate each other, right? Let's celebrate gathering, because if we're not careful, we will only focus on what is going wrong. It's really important to make the time to focus on what is going right. We need to schedule joy into our lives. The way we schedule going to work from 9 to 5, Monday to Friday, the way we
Schedule
schedule,
joy.
yes, the way we schedule, I don't know, going to the barber or getting the haircut, or women getting the nails done. We schedule that. We need to schedule joy. Call your guy friends and say, hey, we are doing this. We're all coming by my house Friday night at 4 o'clock or 7 o'clock. Everybody bring a loved one, bring a meal. We're having fun, right? We need to be careful to inject that into our lives, or we will be carried away on the tide of chronic grief and trauma, collective grief and trauma. We cannot allow for us to be taken away by that. We need to give our children hope, right? And if our children do not see our happiness, then they will be washed away by hopelessness.
Wow.
Oh, I didn't mean
That's a
for
good
that
one.
to.
That was
I come with bars,
yes. No, that's so wow.
hmm I don't know if you've ever heard someone say, someone who might not have grown up with a lot. Sometimes you hear people say, I didn't realize that I was poor when I was growing up because we always had laughter.
Yes.
That's a medicine. It protected the children from the stress of poverty,
Mm.
right? We need to really think that our happiness, our joy, our laughter is medicine. We need to spoon feed that to our children.
Not trying to sound pessimistic, but and I totally agree with that. But the pressures of this world, it's like you said, you have to carve out time for joy. You gotta carve out time for these things, and they have to be intentional
Yes.
to bring back the joy. Because everything that you are saying, it just reminds me of a time, in my opinion, where things were simpler.
Yes.
And I mean that in a good way.
hmm
Where you didn't have all, it's good to know what's going on in other parts of the world. But like you said, with the news, you would either catch it at 6 or 11 or 7-11, whatever hours that it's available to you. And you're not constantly with it all the time. You're not constantly comparing yourself to other people and what they're doing. And when you see, 'cause, let's be real, everybody on social media always puts their
Yeah.
best foot first.
Yeah.
That's what you're seeing.
That's what we're seeing.
So if you're seeing them, I have this car, I have that,
There's a
they're not showing the
comparison.
other parts that they're dealing with. And so you're comparing yourself to that. That almost kind of trains you not to share your struggles and where you feel alone. And if you're not able to overcome like these people that you see, then you're a failure.
Yeah.
You're weak. And who wants to be that?
No, we don't.
But in weakness comes strength.
Thank you.
And so it's having the courage
Yes.
to share
Yes.
that and be vulnerable and say that you're weak.
You took that vulnerability word right out of my mouth. Because when we are going through something hard, we don't want to tell anybody. We don't want to make it seem like we can't hack it, that we don't want to share that we're struggling. But when you work up the courage to step out of yourself, to be vulnerable before someone, you will find that no one will laugh at you. You will find that no one will say, "Oh, you can't manage. What's wrong with you?" You will find support. You will find encouragement. You might just find someone say, "That happened to me last week. Here's how I got through it." And you will realize that you are not the only one. That is such a 21st century lie, that we are the only ones. We are not the only ones. There's nothing new, and everyone's going through a version of the same thing,
Right. Yeah.
right? And, when you get encouragement from other people, it gives you the strength to push forward. It gives you actually someone that you can actually, "Oh, those people were really supporting me the other day. Let me just call them because I feel really low." It gives you a community that you can tap into, right? It helps to spur you along. It gives you strength for the journey. We're not supposed to be doing this by ourselves.
So there's two things to this, because there's one, the person that's going through the difficult times, for them to be brave enough to be encouraged to say something. What is the responsibility of the other people who may not be going through that
Yeah.
particular acute situation?
Mm-hmm.
What is their responsibility to that person that is about to become very vulnerable? Because I think that's the scary part. There's one thing, I agree, I would like to say certain things to some people, but in some cases, not all, even though another person is going through the same thing or have gone through it, their response, because once again, they want to seem like nothing is wrong, would discourage you from ever doing it again, because they may
Yes.
say all sorts of manner of evil.
There are some people, okay, yes. There are some people who are not super encouraging, right? But to anyone who's listening or watching this, I will say, when someone comes to you and they finally open up and they say something, be kind. Listen. Listen with an open ear. Listen with an open heart. It took them everything to finally acknowledge that something is wrong. You do not have to have the answer. You do not have to pretend to be a therapist. That is not your job. Your job is to provide a soft landing for that person. Just listen and say, "Man, that must be so hard," right? If you have gone through something similar and you are now on the other side, share the nuggets of wisdom that you have learned. Do not discourage them. No one wants to be discouraged. If you have nothing nice to say, just say, "Man, that sucks. Have you tried therapy?" Right? If you have nothing else to offer, but do not discourage. Don't mess up somebody else's day, right? But when someone comes to you,
That's a big responsibility
listen. What's a big responsibility?
for that person, like for someone to become vulnerable, but the person that's hearing all this
Mm-hmm.
to be, I don't want to say this, but wise enough to, be kind.
Yeah.
Like literally.
But does it take wisdom to be kind? It takes compassion. What kind of um reception would you want if you had a problem and you were carrying it for the longest time and you finally shared with someone? What kind of reception would you want? You would just want someone to provide a soft landing, just a listening ear. We can do that. I challenge people to do that. Just provide. You don't have to fix it. No one's asking you to fix it. Just provide a listening ear. That's the least you can do. And if you have gone through something similar and you are on the other side of it, you can say, "Well, I know it's not the same thing, but I tried this and I tried that. It might be useful." People can take it or they can leave it. You don't seem convinced.
No, I am convinced, and I
Yeah.
believe that wholeheartedly. It's just we live in a cruel world sometimes. And I don't want to harp on that
No,
because I
no.
think I'm hopeful
Yes.
that things will get better or that
Yes.
people could just be human.
Yes.
And, you want to be able, like you said, how would you like to be treated? But I've seen in so many cases where someone will open up, and whether the person that they're opening up to maybe are not equipped. And you gave some great advice. If you don't know what to say, speak to a therapist maybe. Don't pretend like, the answer you're going to give is the right answer when you
Right.
really don't even know what you're talking
Right.
about, and could cause more harm than helping them out.
Yeah.
But yeah, there's hope.
What I will say that I haven't come across it personally, but I know people have come across this where they go to share with someone, and the person that they're opening up to, their perspective is, I had to deal with that by myself and I had to
Yes.
struggle. So you can struggle too. Right? No. No, we're not doing that. I would not suggest that at all. Yes, you had to struggle and maybe it built some muscle for you, but wouldn't it have been easier if someone had just given you a hand? Right? Then extend that. Just because you had it hard doesn't mean you must make it hard for other people.
That tells you about people though. Because
They've been hurt.
yes.
Mm-hmm.
And if I've been hurt and I had no one to talk to, guess what? You got to feel the
Yeah,
same
you gotta
pain.
feel.
And let's see if you could come out as strong like I did or I made it. And it is very disappointing to see when
Yeah,
people are actually doing it,
yeah.
when maybe that person has gone through this and they could probably provide some information or help
Mm-hmm.
for someone else.
They slammed the door shut behind them.
Yes.
Yeah, that's unkind. That's unkind. And if you open up to someone and that's how they treat you, that does not mean you should never open up again. It just meant that that was a wrong person who hurt you,
Mm-hmm.
right? And if you've been harmed by someone and you feel like, well, that person behaved this way to me, that means I'm never talking to someone again,
Yes.
then I would suggest you find a professional if you can, and they will help you discern who the right person in your community would be to then open up to.
That's a good point.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, if you see a specialist or a professional, that's part of their code of ethics.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, that's safe.
Yeah.
But yeah, all the world needs, and I know it sounds kumbaya-ish,
Y-
but just a little bit
A
more love
little love.
and some compassion and caring.
Yeah. Yeah.
And we could really heal a lot,
Mm-hmm.
starting with the community. And
Mm-hmm.
from that, just individual
Yeah.
traumas that we're going through from what we've been seeing.
Mm-hmm.
And I don't know, like, are things going to get better within the world? Like, there will always be conflict. There's always going to be issues that, like, let's be real. There's always going to be wars. There's always going to be,
Yes.
fight over something.
Mm-hmm.
There's going to be natural disasters, whether it's a hurricane, tornado. There's always something that's going to be happening. But as a community, we need to become stronger
Mm-hmm.
to manage it.
We need each other. We need to see each other as human. We need to see each other as equal, right? And I think the inability to do that is what is the crux of some of the the discontent that we see in our world. We're just people. We're all just people trying to live and love and do our best. And if we can just see each other as individuals, if we can just meet each other at the same level, we'll find that other people are really that not much different from us, right?
Wow. So,
Turn off the news.
well, that I was going to ask you, like, what tangible things can what can we leave people with right now
Yeah.
in order to manage global and group collective trauma?
Mm-hmm.
What can we do? I know you said some great things about community,
Mm-hmm.
festivals,
Yeah.
events,
Mm-hmm.
scheduling joy,
Mm-hmm.
celebrating
Mm-hmm.
the positive and joys and
Yes.
events.
Yes.
Is there anything else that you think we can do? Speak to a therapist.
Speak to a therapist, turn off the news,
Yeah.
talk to your children.
I want to have another conversation with you about children,
Yeah.
students.
Yeah. Talk to your children, get their opinion on the world. Find out what makes them spark, what lights them up. Move your body if you can. Go for a walk down the street. If you're not into, I'm not a, I want to sign up for a little run, but I'm not the kind of person who runs. I only run if people are chasing me. But move your body, lift something heavy, walk
Yes.
down the street, have a dance party in your kitchen.
Yes.
Get some sunshine.
Yes.
Drink your water and mind your business.
Mhm.
These are like simple, tangible things. If fresh fruits and vegetables are accessible to you, eat those things. Eat the rainbow if you can. And connect with somebody else. Connect with somebody else. We are so much more alike than we are different.
Human connection.
Mm-hmm.
Once again,
Mm-hmm.
simple things.
Simple things.
But as humans, we somehow make things complicated.
Right? We
can't help
specialize in
ourselves.
that.
Yeah. Wow. Well, thank you for this conversation.
Of course.
I think it's timely only because, there's so many things going on in the world and things will continue to go on. It's funny. Well, it's not funny, but I remember on Instagram, there's this, after the pandemic, there was this meme or cartoon where aliens are up next. So they're like, are we next?
Are we?
Meaning, like there's constantly going to be something
Yes,
happening.
yeah.
And we got to find ways to manage it, because if we don't, we're in a lot of danger individually in terms of coping.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Yeah.
mentally. Okay. Well, I'm sure people got something from this conversation.
so.
I know I did. And thank you for coming on and having this conversation with us.
Yeah.
And see you again.
Thank you for having me. I'm sure I'll be back.
Yes. Take care, everyone.